But also, we have managed to, you know that we'll come and talk about Vivat, which is the Vincentian Values Programme, a little later. But that programme has already involved a huge number of lay people from 15 Vincentian organisations, not just our projects. And one of the key players in the core group of Vivat is a young man called Mark Chunara, whom many of you will know, who's currently a member of staff at the Passage. And he's been on some inordinate amount of paternity leave, like months and months of paternity leave. It's these new rules seem to give them a long time. But he's about to return to the Passage. And you will remember that in the summer we had a failed recruitment round. We just couldn't find the right person for DC Services, a layperson. Mark has always been hugely enthusiastic. At the moment, Mark doesn't have all of the qualifications and experience to be able to head up DC Services, but he is hugely enthusiastic. And Margaret is very happy to have him as what we're going to call operations manager. So, and during that time, he will be on a secondment of 1 year from the Passage, and it will be it'd be like an apprenticeship. And if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, he's still got job security. But I think Margaret and I are pretty confident that he's the right young man. And in the end, I think our experiences of other members of staff of the Passage, of DC Services, has taught us that it's better to have the right person and try to put the skills that we need in place than to have an all-singing, all-dancing person who may not fit. I think that's fundamentally the learning. So please God, sometime in July, Mark will join as a secondment from the Passage, will join DC Services. Very generously, Mick Clark, who you all know from the Assembly, who's the current chief exec of the Passage, has agreed to be a sort of job coach for him so that he gets some training and background and supervision. So that's a kind of partnership that's been struck. As well as that, in the next few months, we're hoping to recruit an HR person who'll be a shared human resources personnel person between ourselves as a province and DC Services, and also a fundraiser. Those two last things being the key things that have been identified by the projects as their needs for assistance. And hopefully that team of 4 will be in place for the autumn. And whilst I'm talking about the team, I need to pay tribute to Tricia and Cherie and Eileen, who all play key roles in the teamwork behind DC Services and work extremely hard. And often it's on top of their day job. So I hope that's kind of more or less the sort of response that people were looking for. Are there just any questions on that piece? Okay, thank you. Just to remind you that we have 4 members of DC Services at the moment. That's the Family Project, St Vincent's Family Project, Vincentian Care Plus, Out There, and St Joseph's Services. And the Space is not a member of DC Services yet. It needs to gain its independence before it can join DC Services. And so the Space is working to be independent by next April the 1st of next year. And then there will be 5 members. Just going back over the projects, the Family Project at the moment, Margaret is chairing, and she will continue to do that. Vincentian Care Plus has had its 10th anniversary, and all of that time, Sister Margaret Bannerton has been at the helm. So I just want to take this opportunity, if you're watching at home, Margaret, to say a huge thank you and to pay tribute to her for the enormous amount of work that she's put into bringing Vincentian Care Plus to where it is today. She'll be missed, but please God, because of her work, VCP will go on. Thank you, Margaret. Moving on to Out There, Moira is now chairing Out There as its former leader and founder, and it is having its 10th anniversary this year, coming up in June. Okay, so September's the date, but we're celebrating in June. Okay, and because of that, we've got a special raffle for Out There going to happen during the meeting, which we'll tell you about in announcements a bit later on. Is that all right, Moira, or do you want to do it now? No. St. Joseph's is now being chaired by Eileen. And it's had a huge change because Winnie, after 50 years, Winnie Toohey has retired and handed over to a man called Rob Jahoda, who has been a trustee, who's now stood down from the trustees and replaced Winnie in St. Joseph's. So we had a huge party for Winnie's 50th anniversary, and so we owe her a huge debt of gratitude for all that she's done as director, and all the Daughters of Charity going back 4 years now across the ages to bring that to where it is now. Not least among those is our Eleanor. Sometimes I think Eleanor's been there for 90 years because it feels like that. Now, and you may have sort of half heard that Eleanor will be moving on sometime in the summer from St. Joseph's, and Kathleen will replace her, Kathleen Page. But Eleanor, I think you're here, and we can't help but say a huge thank you to you. St. Joseph's will miss you, but please God, there'll be other ways of keeping in touch. And I can't even begin to describe who you have been to St. Joseph's for how long, and coming and going and having little gaps and going back again. And our hearts are with you because it will be a huge wrench. So Eleanor, thank you. And we're all really grateful to you. Thank you. The space is getting new premises so that it can grow a bit. It's very small, those of you that have seen it. It's a very small shop front, and its clients are growing by the minute. So hopefully, Eileen is at the moment refurbishing a building very near to the space, which is an old church centre. I think it was a synagogue in the beginning, was it? Yeah. And that's being refurbished at the moment, just so that the space can have more space to work in. And that's going to have a future that we're going to have to keep looking at for at least another year until it goes independent. I want to reassure you that all of these projects have a number of DCs involved, both as trustees and on the ground. So at the moment, I think St. Vincent's Family Project is the only project that doesn't have a DC actually working in it, but there's a lot of input going into it. And all of our projects are on the way to having at least 2 DCs on the trustees, and some of you will know that we're in consultation at the moment to spread those trusteeships across the province. And we'll publish those as soon as they're ready in briefing. So we still have an enormous input into those projects. The work stream that we call Vivat, which is about Vincentian values training, I'm going to ask Margaret now that she's kind of got over the announcement to come and talk to us about Vivat, because she's been playing a leading role in it. Margaret, thank you.
Thank you very much, sisters. I count on your prayers, as you can well imagine. All that we've heard this morning about the Charter, about our history. It's all been about mission. If we think back to Vincent, he was going through a huge depression that lasted for about, 3.5 to 4 years. And it was only when he was touched by the poor at Châtillon that his life changed. They somehow took over his very being, and he could not stand aside from them. He was absolutely fired with a passion. And then that passion, combined with the passion of Louise, that's what pushed them to work absolutely tirelessly for the unmet needs of the poor. And it would seem that the fire that they inspired, that they kindled and continued to inspire, that same fire is still alive after 400 years. Our Vincentian organisations here and throughout the world are proof of that. We wouldn't be DCs if we weren't right in the middle of that fire, if we weren't totally burning up with that same passion. We want our values to be caught. We want them to be alive today. Vincent did it because he spoke with such an open heart. He spoke to the people, to the peasants, in their own language, and that had an overwhelming effect on the people. Both Vincent and Louise knew and acted out of the reality that we can only change things in relationship. They both did it, and they both valued relationships. We can only pass something on if we're in relationship with the others. The work of Vivat kind of melts comfortably into that scenario, making sure that at this point in our history, we spread the fire throughout our projects, our services, and in relationship with our colleagues, we keep it alive. Of course, we have to do it, as Vincent did, in a very organised way. So we at Vivat have produced an induction course, which we expect all of our colleagues in the projects to participate in. For some, it might seem too basic, and for others, it might not seem basic enough. But we wanted to create a common ground from which to grow. We want our colleagues to blend their personal values with the values of our services into a mission where they're very much in evidence. So far, we've worked in Worley and in Rosewell, Maria and I, and the response has been amazing. We had great enthusiasm, great levels of participation, and a kind of a happiness, a joy at knowing that they belong to something much bigger than their own service. We already have arranged dates to be back in both of those, and we're reaching out to the others. We're waiting for dates from the Family Project and from Vincentian Care Plus to go there too. The space and out there are also on our agenda. These courses will be repeated as often as necessary, and there is now a team of sisters and others who are getting ready to help to give them. Obviously, two people couldn't continue to give all of them. We were impressed, both in Worley and in St. Joseph's, by their thirst for more. And that kind of fits in nicely with our next stage, which is a foundation course. A course that's obviously for fewer people, but will be more intense, in depth, and in challenge. Excuse me. This course will last probably around 9 months, and we hope to start it, the first one, by the end of this year. Of course, courses don't miraculously change organisations, but they can kindle and inspire, and in time, please God, refire that passion, the passion for the mission that's so much part of our very being. We still have it. That's obvious. It's obvious even this morning. But with fewer DC boots on the ground, we have to organise a way of sharing it. And then, as Vincent always did, evaluating it. Vivat's trying to do just that. In relationship with our colleagues, with the purpose of keeping the passion of Vincent and Louise for values-based, mission-centred service alive. The poor are, and always will be, our lords and masters. We have a lot to learn from our colleagues, but we still have much to give. We have already many Vincentians, and please God, through the work of Vivat, we will have many more. Vivat is only a small part of the story. Thank you.
Margaret, thank you very much, and thank you for taking it all on. I'll be quick now because we've gone into coffee. I'm not sorry, because I think, you know, the quality of what we've had this morning so far has been fantastic, and I hope will continue to be. I just wanted to say, Margaret mentioned the expansion of the teachers, if you like, of Vivat, and I just want to let you know who they are. Brenda Mattison, Maria Robb, Eleanor Rogers, Anne Buckridge, Mary Timmins, Teresa Tighe, Margaret herself, of course, Kathleen Page, Moira Bain, Father Paul, Mick Clark of the Passage, Paul Southgate of VIE, Maria Parcher, and Kathleen Kennedy. All of those people have agreed to help to do the dissemination of the induction course and then possibly the foundation course. So it's great to get more people involved and to get this spreading even further afield. Just a couple more bits. I want to mention that Kathleen Page is taking a particular role in Vivat, as well as practicing on the ground as a pastoral worker in St. Joseph's. She's going to be developing, on the back of her course last year, a Vincentian pastoral model for our projects. Now, you remember that the one role we're wanting to retain in projects is the pastoral chaplaincy type role, keeping an eye on the training and the ethos of the place. That role needs to be unpacked. It needs to be unpacked full stop by definition, but it also needs to be unpacked in a Vincentian way. Kathleen's thesis last year that she's just submitted, congratulations Kathleen, was called Towards an Understanding of Vincentian Pastoral Care. So she has already studied it and is hoping to put it into practice during the coming year within all of the projects, in consultation with the sisters in the projects now. So that's good news. And then we have two little publications, Vivat publications. One is a shared statement across 15 Vincentian organisations, and they're listed in there, so you'll be able to see who they are, and they include our care homes. That statement is a statement of shared identity and identifies 5 values that all of these projects have signed up to that we hold in common. They're not necessarily the values of the actual project, but they are 5 things that we have committed to share in common. Serving people who are experiencing the effects of poverty, respecting each person's dignity, being kind and compassionate, enabling choice and change, and acting in solidarity for justice. That's 15 so far. And this one is also about our values. But it's more about the sort of frequently asked questions. The trustees wrote this to make it very clear, mostly for recruitment purposes, the nature and identity of what somebody is joining when they join one of our projects, being upfront about its Christianity, its Catholicity, and its Vincentianness. So those two are in your packs for going home, so you can have a good read of those when you get home. The next Vivat conference is in July, and we'll try and keep you up to date with how that goes. And then finally, just to say that I know that also what's come up before is that people think, why isn't this happening in my ministry? Don't despair, it's coming. We just need to kind of get a bit further down the road, and our hope and dream is that we will have something that can roll out, be given to you, whatever it is, so that whatever workplace you're in, whatever mission or ministry you're in, that will happen. And we're hoping the expanded team will help us to do that. So, thank you, everybody. I feel a bit breathless after all that. We've run a little into coffee, so make your way to the coffee dock, whatever they call it, and they'll should be waiting for you with coffee. And if you could be back here by 20 to 12. Thank you. 20 to 12. Thank you.